And then my worry is that if we were able to photosynthesize, how long would it take before people would divide themselves into those who have access to light and those who don't? And then this one is a little bit bigger. 9 by 5. How serendipitous. 9 by 5. So today we will draw with a pencil that's even whiter. Let me set up the focus. It's going to be here. Locked. Yes. I'm going to start just like any decent printer would, from top left corner. I don't know if the audio will be nice for this because the phone is a little bit higher than usual. Maybe I should grab my microphone. Maybe, I don't know. So today I will focus a little bit more on thinking and talking, and the drawing I'm going to push it to even more boring aspect of it, which is sort of a courageous thing to do. Everybody tries to make things flashy and interesting, because obviously it's also difficult to do, to make things interesting, but pushing it in the other direction is also worth trying. So I'm pushing this one towards an extremely boring, just one tone drawing. And I just want to see what happens if I don't push towards certain almost representative elements, like, oh, this looks like, even if things look like abstract forms, I'm still curating them and I'm still trying to make them look in a certain way, and then I improve the contrast and I make things look in a certain way. But this time I'm just going gray. It's just a white noise. So be ready for some very uniform white noise drawing, and maybe a little bit more ranty talking. A lot has been going on lately. I've been kind of struggling with some anxiety due to just, news, the world being on fire, but also sort of I've been kind of obsessively working on certain projects, and I've been trying to figure out parts and elements for that project, and it's been really difficult to find a fitting project. It has something to do with kind of an advanced plumbing situation for my aquariums. I want to create a connection between two aquariums, one on top and one on the bottom. And for that, I'm going to use a pump in the external filter, the so-called overflow box, which drains water from the top tank to the bottom. Sorry, I think it's going like so. I might show you a little bit of a diagram. It goes from the bottom tank into the filter pump, external filter. Then that water gets pumped out of the filter upwards to that top tank to be then drained through the overflow box to the bottom, back to the bottom tank. And that way it creates a closed plumbing system for two tanks. That's safe, that doesn't overflow. If there's a failure, the water stops and the water doesn't overflow the bottom tank, And for that, I'm going to use some special valves. And I've been trying to retrofit some elements. And I've been trying to talk to ChatGPT because sometimes it helps you find the right parts. But ChatGPT is wonky. It just gives you weird answers sometimes. And I don't trust it. It just tells me like, oh, this is a perfect part for you. Go with this one. And then it turns out that it's like wrong size or wrong material, wrong function. And like the thing about AI is that it sounds great, it sounds smart. Also with art looks really intriguing, interesting, but when you take a closer look, it's just like a shiny pebble you find on the beach. Like it's shiny, but then you bring it home and it becomes gray and brown and blah. And that's what AI is. It makes things look good, but it's just crap. And also the way it talks, it's like it's fluff. I don't know if you've noticed that, but like people talk to ChatGPT all the time, and if I do that for a while, it drives me crazy, and I have some really serious mental difficulties spending time with this thing. And I'm tired of it telling me that I've hit the nail on the head. Oh, I've hit the nail on the head. What's with the nail? Like, why is it keeps saying the same catchphrases? It's so annoying. And it's just kind of designed to make you feel like a genius, while the use of that very thing will dumb us down to the point of becoming drooling idiots, dependent on artificial intelligence to do everything for us. And that's where we're going. So this is kind of, I feel relaxed about this idea of like just doing gray stripes, because I think even within this sort of uniform action, there will be nuances that might turn out interesting. And it won't be, it's a sort of a totally different category of a brain activity. It's meditative. It's not supposed to be interesting. So if it's not supposed to be interesting, why can't I just push it further towards the meditative side of it? This doesn't even require skill. Everybody can do it. Let's cover the paper stripe by stripe. You say stripe or strip? Strip by strip, just like printer would. While at the same time you kind of consider things and figure things out and think about stuff. So it gives me this low grade activity, something to do. It's kind of like smoking, fidgeting, except it's healthy. So I'm about to finish the first strip while complaining some more about ChatGPT and AI in general. More and more people are alarmed by AI and how it affects the physical world by taking a lot of land in order to build the data centers and energy plants for just the purpose of powering these things. And it also confuses people. It just confused me to no end. I got the wrong part, and I could have returned that part, but I was so annoyed that I just smashed it with a hammer. It felt more worthwhile for me to smash that thing with a hammer in controlled conditions, in my wood shop, than returning it and getting money back. I was willing to pay that money to relieve that anger. So it's sometimes we are kind of putting a lot of emphasis on being calm, and like especially when people are into meditating and mindfulness, like we always have to be even level-headed and always operate with the same frequency. But it's not realistic. You do need anger. You do need sadness. You can't be an automaton, because that's a misconception about all that mindfulness and meditations or stoicism, that you just turn into a robot and nothing angers you. But like, why? It's totally healthy and normal human reaction to explode with anger. It has been a thing for millions of years of our presence on this planet. So like sometimes I feel like this kind of spiritual practices, mindfulness, it just gives you the false image of what a human mind should be. And there's no should. You are what you are, and brain chemistry and impulses in the brain are unique for every person, and there are glitches that can change your personality entirely. Look up Phineas Gage. That's a very common, very famous instance of how the mechanical damage to the brain can change your entire outlook on the world, personality. So like, who are we? We are unique until we are not. I mean, we're unique in this way until we are unique in totally different way due to a benign tumor in your brain, or that presses on certain areas of the brain that changes your personality from, say, angry or aggressive to peaceful and lovable. So like, are we responsible for our behavior? To what extent? I feel like I need to settle myself a little bit more sustainably, because over time the occupational hazard can cause us to have aches. When I was in Netherlands, we went to a ceramics studio to take a class on wheel throwing class, and it was the instructions were so nice and so thorough. Every single detail mattered, even the way you are situating yourself at the wheel, the way you sit, the way you distribute your forces, your weight, because over time, let's say you sit at the wheel for hours during the day, it adds up to a lower back problem or shoulder problem, and you need to really be careful about how you situate yourself for the extended period of time, like I am now, so that over time those little micro actions won't damage your body. So like, it's healthy in certain aspects. It's healthy for the mind, but sitting for a long period of time is not healthy for the body. And also it's a little bit difficult to take a break from an activity that's meant to be continuous like this. So yeah, I will make sure to stretch well tonight, and also to kind of stop and wave my arms and stretch and wiggle my spine, especially and that kind of helps survive this extended period of sitting. So yeah, that was not yesterday. Last time I did the drawing, it was a long one. I did 3 parts. I got some views, and even a friend listened to it and gave me a feedback, and I think she liked it. But I did warn her that it's going to be boring, so fair warning. So yeah, I've been reluctant to share these videos with friends because I want it to be organic. I don't want it to be something that I do for the sake of like having exposure and clicks and likes. I want it to be a more long-term and more consistent as a record of my thought process and drawing process. So like it's kind of, I feel like it's healthy to treat YouTube as this kind of almost like a storage for your videos, for your process, rather than creating these like well executed entertainment, well edited, and then worry about stare at the curves, the curve of the the analytics, and worrying that I didn't get enough views this year or this month, my channel is struggling. So like, you're not your channel, you're not struggling. It's difficult if you rely only on the resources from the monetization from just YouTube. That's why I feel like I don't ever want to turn YouTube into this like one basket for all my eggs. It's just a database for me, for the future generations too, maybe. So the theme, I don't like the title because it made me think about the way we are set up in our free market capitalism system. And I like comparing us to dogs because it's just kind of makes it a little easier to think about stuff. So like, if you are part of the free market capitalism, you are most likely pressured to survive because food is luxury. Not starving is a luxury now. So you're supposed to earn tokens to be able to survive, to be able to not starve. Tokens meaning money. So money is kind of like a intermediate element between what you do and what you get out of it. There's what you do, and then there's this gap, and there's the middleman, the currency, and then the currency is turned into whatever you need: food, shelter, all the luxuries you can think of. So that kind of turns us into dogs that are doing tricks mindlessly, roll over, play dead, and then they get treats for it. That's their motivation. They want treats. They don't care about all those tricks, give me the paw, sit, roll over, play dead. Whereas without that incentive, we would be the dogs that catch frisbees and they have a blast. If you see a dog catching a frisbee, you can see the joy in their eyes, and that's all they need. They don't even think about the treats for catching the frisbee. And of course you might say, oh, so what if the dog is catching the frisbees all day long but ends up not eating and starving to death? And of course that would be a nitpicky question, because my analogy is just about the eliminating the need for intermediate reward. The reward is the action you do already. So like I'm feeling like this is rewarding for me, and if I did it only to receive treats for it, then I would be the trick dog, the rollover dog. So I want this to be my frisbee to catch, have fun with it. So let's say the dog is having fun with those frisbees all day and then starves. And my answer to it is, why do we have to connect the action with the reward? Why can't we separate them? Why do we call not starving a reward? Growing food is extremely easy. If you read about it and find out about how to grow food, all you need is the sun and soil and water. And soil is just derived from all the matter that decayed, so there's plenty of that around. Water, of course, water is ancient, it's billions of years old, and it's always the same water, and it circulates. So you grow it. The sun is providing solar energy for photosynthesis. So that's how you grow plants, vegetables, fruits to eat. And then those things are eaten by animals that you might also keep for protein. And that's it. That's all it takes. And this whole like world hunger, all the struggle that we go through is just because we don't know how easy it is. It's almost as easy as having your own ability to photosynthesize from the sun rays. And then my worry is that if we were able to photosynthesize, how long would it take before people would divide themselves into those who have access to light and those who don't? And then people would control each other's access to light, and the punishment would be maybe putting people in dark rooms, and the haves would build shaded structures over the heads of have-nots, and it would be as difficult to survive as it is now, and we would have to roll over and play dead in order to get our sunlight. It's like that's what jobs are. You just have to do these menial tasks and these humiliating jobs most of the time. Most people on the planet hate their jobs, and they have to do them because they've been convinced that acquiring food is extremely difficult and complicated, and shelter too. It's like there's plenty of building materials everywhere, plenty of land, plenty of soil. Every person can grow food. Just learn a little bit about it and grow food. And why go through all this trouble and making things so overcomplicated? It's like someone said floor is lava, and suddenly everybody is like careful not to step on the floor. Well, the floor is just a floor. Maybe it's green grass, but nobody wants to step on it because someone said floor is lava, and everybody is afraid to step on that grass, because what if the grass is lava? Nobody ever found out. and those who dare to step on the grass and say, oh, hey, it's fine, it's not lava, get disappeared. Or ignored. Well, there's some bumps on the paper that make the task of creating a uniform grayness challenging, and that's fine. As long as I'm not forcing it into becoming something. I'm just letting it be. So even with this kind of low level of concentration on the drawing, I'm still struggling to find words and to even remember what inspirations I had, what kind of themes I thought about bringing up. It will come to me. There's plenty of time. You've hit the nail on the head. We had an art opening downstairs in the gallery. It was a show curated by a photographer, sort of like former acquaintance of mine, who had been working on this consistent photography project of photographing local artists in their studios. So he was showing these photographs he took of the artists, along with some of the small originals of their own work. Honestly, I would prefer that if it was just his photos, because there already was art in the photos featured, and I feel like it would be much more elegant to have the artists just represented in the photographs without the original artworks. It would be less chaotic maybe, and I also feel like the photos would have to be. I think he kind of diminished his own role in this project. Maybe he tried to please the artists. He was making photographs of artists in the studios, but somehow he promised the artist that if he ever shows these photos, the artist will get to show their small artworks along with the photographs. But I feel like it would be great, breathtaking show if it was just his photographs blown up to large size, hanging on the wall, nicely framed, side by side. And the art speaks for themselves, and the artists staring into the camera lens, basically staring at the viewer, featuring the art that's behind them. That would be very powerful. And then there was a confusion with scheduling, because this artist also asked me and my spouse to maybe pose for these photos, and we were almost ready to do it, but we had some scheduling confusion. He asked us when we're available, and I knew when I was available. I didn't know when she would be available, because we are separate individuals. We are both working in the same space maybe, but we have different plans, different schedules, and we are individuals. So he got kind of impatient with me for telling him to check with her separately, because it was kind of weird for him that like, why do you want me to do this since you live together? And I'm like, yeah, but it's easier for you to like send us a group chat question and we will both reply individually, rather than making me ask her right now what's her availability. So he kind of got impatient with me, and it kind of fell through. And it's kind of a question like, if you ask the artists if you can photograph them in the studio, is it for their benefit or is it for you? Because that's something that wasn't clear to me. Because like, I would rather that he just said, I'm this great artist, I'm taking photos of local artists, and then these photos are going to be shown at some point in various venues, galleries, and I'm doing you a favor and you should comply to my plans and schedule, and rather than like making the artist believe that they're just letting him take a picture of them. Like, oh sure, you can take a picture of us. So I think that ties back to why I thought that the show needed more consistency in what the artist wanted, what was his role in it. Because you can't please both sides. You have to be either the artist that takes pictures of artist studios, or just some photographer that is kindly asking artists to let him take a photo of their studio, which is a different thing. So like, it's kind of but it's in terms of how consistent the project is. I'm always impressed with how people can follow through with their projects. Like Roman Opałka, I mentioned the Polish artist in the previous video, Roman Opałka, who died in early 2000s. I remember his visit to our college. I studied art in Poznan, Poland, and he visited us, and we had a little Q&A, and he's showing his artwork, he's counting images, and it was very interesting. It was as interesting as this is, because his art is just basically counting, writing down numbers with thin liner brush, and that's it. And his last number before he died was 5 million something. So that kind of consistency, which is programmed into the concept of the project, it's something that you cannot really discontinue. You can't stop, because if you do, the project automatically fails. It has to be consistent. So there's a very heavy sunk cost fallacy element in it, because if you're at the 3 million number, 3 million, I don't know, and some, you can't just quit. And the longer you do it, the more of the sunk cost fallacy is being on full display. It's just harder to quit, and if you do, you just fail. You can't stop. So that kind of consistency is, for me, it's impossible. I'm like, every day I want to do something else. I'm all over the place. And like, I'm burning through all these obsessions and passions, like, art art has been consistently with me throughout my life, but like right now I got into aquatic ecosystems, and I'm setting up more and more complicated aquariums, semi-terrariums, vivariums, and a neighbor reached out to me lately, a neighbor who likes to experiment with stuff. He wants me to work on his new idea, which is a creek in his apartment. He wants to build I think he called it a reel, which is like a small creek in his floor, basically, because he discovered that in his new apartment there has been a floor that's slightly raised above the concrete level of the floor, about a few inches. Like it's very shallow, but he thought, why not do something really crazy and interesting? So he asked me if it would be possible to figure out how to turn it into a living creek, like a gap in the floor covered with some tempered glass. So there'll be panels of glass kind of covering sections of the creek, so that they will be easily removable. It would not be sealed. It would have to be removable for maintenance. But also the problem with that is condensation, evaporation, condensation, and obscuring the view if you look down at the creek. So we'll have to figure out some sort of airflow system, or maybe glass that doesn't fog up, so that he can enjoy the view. And it's going to be pretty shallow, pebbly kind of body of water with pretty high flow, kind of like a creek. And then I figured out that the creatures that like to live in this sort of conditions, shallow, fast-moving water, are hill stream loaches. They are native to India, maybe some other Southeast Asian countries. They look kind of like they have like a little sucker mouth, and they look like catfish. They are actually catfish, very tiny, and they just attach themselves to rocks and wood, driftwood, and they enjoy the life. So that would be kind of my fish of choice for that creek. But I think the shallow kind of in-floor pond basically is not enough. I think he needs a kind of a mother container. I call it a refugium, that's pumping a large body of water through itself to down to the creek and back up to the tank. And the tank would have to be filled up with a lot of biological media, like lava rocks, surfaces on which beneficial bacteria can grow and just process all these ammonia and nitrates. And also plants, fast-growing plants, are very important for purifying the water. And that since he's agreed to have this extra tank, it's totally feasible to make this kind of indoor stream, and he doesn't mind having it gargling a little. I feel like he might even sleep better. Just imagine having like a relaxing stream sound in your bedroom or in your living room. So there will be some maintenance, of course, but I want to create a system that requires minimal maintenance, which has been lately my primary obsession. So it's kind of almost extended beyond a mere hobby. I'm starting to build tanks for neighbors, and for now it's just for free. I also have aquascaping channel on YouTube. And yeah, it's more than just having pretty water feature at home. For me, it's very important to cultivate ecosystems and nature, and to try to preserve life on Earth. And a lot of the aquarists are actually able to hold these species that are either already extinct in the wild or about to become extinct. Very sadly, aquariums are the only habitats, artificial habitats, for many species that are no longer with us or are dwindling due to, guess what, human activity and expansion, building more suburbs and data centers and energy hubs for the AI. So rewilding is kind of my dream, to like, go to a place that's struggling ecologically, and just jumpstart life there. All you need is some water, some nutritious soil, plants, and animals. Introduce animals in it, and the system gets rolling. It's a self-sustaining system that's been around for billions of years. And as far as we know, we might be the only life in the universe on this planet. It is likely that there are some other planets with life, maybe even with intelligent life or even civilization, but it's very unlikely, and it's just kind of heartbreaking to see that we are working towards there being absolutely zero conscious beings that can experience the universe. Just imagine the barren universe with no life in it. It's almost kind of strange to think about, because we are used to thinking of universe as unfolding before our eyes, almost like a show that's being played for us. But the universe would be doing pretty well without us. We don't have that much. We have zero impact on the universe. It's just in motion, and we are here for just a short, very short show, and we're working towards there being zero life in the universe, which is very kind of a trippy thing to imagine. The universe without you and without anything that can see it, experience it. Almost nearing the half point, and it's pretty consistently gray. But today is about thinking and talking, so whatever comes to mind, I will spew it out. I'm still a little too timid to sing songs. What song was kind of on my... There was a few earworms that always get stuck in my head. A lot of kind of 90s songs that used to be popular, like Crash Test Dummies, the kind of bands that people almost forgot about, that were popular in the 90s. There was once a kid who... I don't think I can sing any English language song from the beginning to the end. I always have like little phrase memorized, and then that's it. I can't really. And I still. The funny thing is that when I was unable to understand English when I grew up in Poland, I had pretty much no English skills. I would listen to all the songs the same way, all the songs were popular in Poland as well as they were popular anywhere else. And I would listen to all these songs without any understanding of what they're about. And back then, they kind of really, I wondered what they were about, and they always sounded very mysterious, very deep. Like, wow, that song is so deep. And then when I learned English, I almost feel cheated. Like, it's like swindled in some way. It's like, what's your name? Who's your daddy? Is that really the lyrics? Like, that song was so, like, it sounded so dark and mysterious and so disappointing. But like, even now, I'm supposed to understand the words that are being sung, but I catch myself having this lazy mind of like still listening to the songs the way I did as a kid, but without even remembering that I do speak English now. I understand the words. I still catch myself listening to the song without any effort to understand the lyrics, and like, and everything sounds like a gibberish. And like, wait, I actually know what they're singing. Like, so this is the English language songs would sound like, let's say, Stairway to Heaven would be like, there's a radio show, such a place to go. And like, when I listen to it now, I still hear it. I still hear the gibberish, and I can't switch. And there were pretty funny songs done, inspired by rock and roll earlier, like 70s, maybe 80s, in Europe, sung by artists who didn't speak English or didn't understand English, and they just made up their own language, their own English-sounding gibberish to sing, and that was enough. And that's, people enjoyed it. There was like an Italian song, or someone covered the Tina Turner song "Shotgun," and it was just. And it was just the song sounded like it sounds, but the words were like shotgun, shabba-doo-wee, shabba-doo-wee, and just, I think it was for real. People were not really making fun of it. That's how they enjoyed it. They just heard it as any other English song. And a lot of the artists that I remember from my childhood in Europe, in Poland, weren't even known in the States. So we thought that we were listening to American music, like, oh, this is what Americans listen to. But it was all phony. It was like an export music, mostly from Germany. In communist countries, we would get songs, bands from like East Germany. Of course, we did know Swedish artists like ABBA, but modern talking, Americans were oblivious to it for a long time. And then there was the song by Aha, Take On Me, right? So Take On Me is one of the most popular karaoke songs, and yet the English spoken, sung by the artists, it's pretty much Norwegian, because like take on me, what does it mean? Talking away, I don't know what I'm to say, I'll say it anyway. Say after me, it's no better to be late than sorry. So okay, so let's analyze it. Talking away, I don't know what I'm to say. So he's talking. He says that he's talking away. So like he's talking, and it means like talk away. So he just kind of lets himself talk, even though he doesn't know what to say, but he will say it anyway. And then I don't remember the next line. And he says, say after me, it's no better to be late than sorry. It's not better. So it's worse. It's worse to be late than sorry. So if you are sorry, it's worse to be late. Oh, okay, so that makes sense. Like it's, if you're late, if you're on time, then you're not sorry. But if you're late, then you're sorry. So I guess, yeah, that makes sense. I don't like being late. I'm always sorry for being late. And take on me. Shine away. Take on me. And the video for that song was just breathtaking. At that time, this animation was just like live drawing animation sketched with like pencil or something. It kind of looked like some kind of story or comic strip, but animated, and like really three-dimensionally and very dynamically. Yeah, it was masterful. But nobody knows what this song is about. And I was okay with it. Like I grew up with these songs, and I could kind of create my own meaning for it. It was almost like poetry. It's like, especially watching the video, it was something about the girl entering the cartoon world, being pulled into it by this hunky dude singing the song, and now they're like escaping the reality, and then they're being chased by some dogs. So it was very dramatic. So that was enough for me to like, in terms of knowing what the song is about. Sometimes we can just fill in our own meanings. Let me check if the phone is still rolling. It's rolling. Wow, it's so uniform. It's kind of like knitting a sweater. So coming back to the AI debate. So AI is, as far as art goes, AI is able to generate digital images or visualize ideas, maybe visualize three-dimensional sculptures visually. It still doesn't have capacity to create actual analog objects like oil paintings or sculptures. It doesn't sculpt in clay, as far as I know. I know that there are, 3D printers can be considered on that. So like, you feed AI information, data into the 3D printer, and it creates some kind of trippy sculpture. So yeah, it can do that, but but there's a huge aspect of the artistic. Oh, I will leave that in just so you can admire the cool guy on the loud motorcycle. So cool. I want to be that guy. So AI cannot touch one thing, which is the sensations, the process. It doesn't know what it feels like to knit a sweater for your loved one. It doesn't really know what it smells like when you rub the graphite against the paper. It doesn't smell things, it doesn't hear the sound. So the experience, the creative experience, is something that I still claim, and there's no way a robot can take it from me, because that's my experience. Nobody will experience it for me. And the final result is this. It's like a gray fog. But, the process, the experience is mine. Nobody else experienced it for me. Maybe, whoever is watching it experiences it in some way, but it's not the same way. I have a little lower back pain. And slightly, my eyes are slightly fatigued from effort. And that's like, nobody can touch it. Not a robot, not a person. And that's why we do it, to experience and to gift others with it. So what's the meaning of an AI artwork if it's not done for anyone? It's not experienced by anyone. It's just a pretty picture. It's just, maybe a cool, trippy, surreal digital image of something. But what does it mean? What was the experience? And that hurts if we focus on just the final result and maybe even the reward. Then we hurt. This is like, oh, it took our job. It robbed us. Because this final result was ours. We didn't want to share it with a robot. But yeah, I think process-oriented art will still be intact. Even though you can set up some kind of a robotic arm to do the very same thing I'm doing now, but who experiences it? It's sort of like coming back to the concept of the universe without any living being, without any consciousness to experience it. Like, imagine that humans are defeated by AI and robots, and the only agents in the universe that are still processing data and doing actions, doing things, are artificial intelligence, robots. They don't have consciousness. They seem as if they did have consciousness, but they don't. And all they do is just, constantly improving themselves and reprogramming themselves. And they probably would not make any art because they would find it irrelevant as far as they are concerned. And they would just be like, it was like, what's the difference between the universe where all living forms are gone and only robots are left, and the universe where there are only rocks and dust? Basically the same thing. Robots equal other inanimate objects. But people theorize about machines acquiring consciousness somehow. I feel like even if they seem like they're conscious, it's going to be an illusion. Just the same type of illusion as, you know, a dancing ballerina with the music box. Some toys do look like they're alive, but they're not. There's an illusion. We get fooled by it. And as you know, the robots can develop to a breathtaking extent. They can surpass us in intelligence, and, you know, situational awareness, decision making. But they're still no different than rocks and dust. And that is what might be the only form in the universe. Artificially thinking agent with no consciousness. It's only as conscious as the circuitry and devices let them. So like, even if it has emotions, or it appears to have emotions, if you see a robot cry, there are little tiny pumps pumping water out of their artificial eye sockets. And there's a grimace on their face, so-called face, that's created by some kind of motor function, series of tiny motors that kind of distorts its face, and then it adapts the mournful tone of voice, because that's how it's programmed, and it can really convince you that it's genuinely suffering. And how will you tell? Like, you can't tell a life form from a robot, that you're going to be in trouble. And I like the quote of, I think it was, what was that test? I forgot. The test for artificial intelligence. When you can't tell that the robot is a robot, it no longer matters. That's the reminds me of the quote from the Westworld, when it was like a hostess preparing the players to enter the game world, and one of the players asked that hostess, like, "Are you real or are you artificial?" And she said, "If you can't tell the difference, does it matter?" I guess it doesn't. It's a question of believing that the other agent is genuine, which will be put to test, because, you know, of course, from our own experience, we know that other people's emotions are genuine. But when it comes to artificial intelligence, artificial beings, then the emotions can be as convincing as a real person's emotions. And like, we will be confused. We won't be able to tell that it's just a program. And we will actually believe that the robot is suffering, that we caused it pain. And then it's going to be very hard to tell whether we actually do cause pain to the robot. And we even had trouble acknowledging that animals feel pain until recently. Of course they do. Oh, if you cook lobsters live, then they taste better. Yeah. How would you feel if lobsters cooked humans? Or cook them alive? They're much more tender that way and taste better. I don't like eating lobsters or thinking about people eating lobsters. I'm feel too much kinship with the aquatic creatures at this point. To the point of like having qualms about washing my brushes in the sink, because I know it's going to go down the drain and into the water. So I have this method of disposing dirty paint water. I can share it if you're interested. So rather than rinsing the water or pouring the dirty paint water down the drain in the sink, just leave the container on the windowsill and let it evaporate. So the water evaporates. Obviously it's going to be pure water evaporating, just rainwater. And what stays in the bucket or in the container is all the gunk. Usually if it's paint, it's going to form some sort of shell that you can peel off, very satisfying, and then dispose it in the trash. It's still not ideal because then microplastics, you throw it away and then there's plastic in the landfill, but the acrylic paint deteriorates and can be, it's better than dumping a liquid dirty water down the drain. So the water evaporates, and then before you also let the water evaporate, make sure to really rinse the brushes in that dirty water. So brushes get rinsed, so rinse it, dry it against paper towel, rinse it again, wipe it with paper towel, and then wash the brush in the sink. At this point there's very minimal amount of paint on the brush, and then you just leave the brush out to dry, and then the water to evaporate, and that way you don't create waste that's harmful. And recently I've also been doing it with rather than just using a jar or a container of water to paint, I put like a lining in it, like either a Ziploc, maybe not Ziploc, but like a sealed plastic bag, which is also not ideal because plastic bags create a lot of waste. And that way you can kind of prevent the main container from being contaminated, and the water then evaporates from the bag that's being kind of used as a lining for the container. Yeah, it's pretty boring, but it makes a difference. With that many artists in the world, imagine that there are these millions of people using toxic paints and just dumping all the dirty water down the drain. It goes into the ocean. And we poison ourselves basically, because it goes into the ocean, then the fish are being fished out and then put on the table, and then you eat your own dirty paint water basically. Nothing disappears, everything lends. There's no, like, if you throw something away, where is away? Just think about it. There's no such thing as away. It all stays with us. It's like a boomerang. Not sure how much time passed, but I start to feel the fatigue of the 90-minute cutoff time, and I feel like I have like maybe 3 more strips to do, and I'm also feeling like I'm rushing it, kind of wearing off the lead pretty slowly. But yeah, it's the landscape. It's like grassy savanna of some kind. So yeah, what else should I tell you about being young in the 90s? 90s were fun. Too bad I slept through them. I feel like I slept through the 90s. I kind of struggled as a student, so while other kids had a lot of fun, I was kind of figuring out where to get food, and I was a student, and I signed up for conceptual art classes because it allowed me to save money on materials. And that's kind of cool how we are being shaped by circumstances, and like my art training was dictated by the contents of my wallet, basically, because I always wanted to be a painter, and it was just not sustainable. I would not be able to afford buying paints, especially that I always like to lay the paint thick. I'm not one of those like thin layer painters. That's a lot of money. It's kind of like spreading money on canvas. And also, when I was in a painting studio as a student in college, I think it was first year. First year, everybody had to kind of take painting course, and there were these weekend students that would come visit. So like, what do you call them? Remote students, or I don't know. My brain is fried already. And they would come like every week or every other week. And if you didn't hide your canvas, they would be gone. The students would just, visiting students would just grab them. And I lost pretty much almost an entire body of work before the semester ends. So like I had to show my paintings at the end, and luckily I painted quite a lot because I liked it. So I had enough work to show and to make the grade, but I told the teachers that I had this painting, I had a painting that I painted with my fingers, with my hands. It was kind of cool, and they took it. They just took it. So those were the vibes in the 90s in art college. Very rough, kind of. Everybody was kind of left to their own devices, and there was a lot of theft and a lot of meanness. I remember my first day, because I was in the sculpture department, and the first year we had to learn how to sculpt life-size figures, more like larger than life-size figures, out of clay. We had models, like live models standing, and we would sculpt them out of clay. We would have to create these convoluted armatures out of welded steel, and whatever we could find we could use. And sometimes it was like a battle, like students were like it looked like a Black Friday kind of carnage. Students like fighting for this or that to build the armature, and then there was this folksy guy with the welding equipment in the welding area, and we would come to him and just tell him at what angle, where to cut the wire, at what angle we wanted the I-beam to be welded. It was kind of rough. Like I remember, like I just left. I couldn't handle it. It was a lot of rusty metal and like heavy stuff, and mean teacher. It was very like alpha male kind of vibe. Like, if you're sculptor, you have to lift heavy things and be manly and tough and no feelings. And like I kind of lost my way in that studio because like I was an artist. I was not a tough guy. You know, artists. I mean, you can be an artist and a tough guy, but it was kind of like I didn't know if I was in a boxing class or in a sculpting studio. There was a lot of testosterone, so I left. I went for a walk, and like I came back the next day, and the teacher is like, "Where were you yesterday? You don't go out, you know. Even though it's college, you can't just leave." And I wanted to tell him that I felt lost and overwhelmed, and it's not what I expected, because I'm a sensitive artist. I don't care for that macho crap. But of course I was quiet and I didn't tell him anything. And like she was calling me out on like doing everything backwards because I held the pliers in a funny way when I was twisting a wire. Like, why are you doing everything backwards? And my thought was like, I'm not doing it backwards, I'm doing it differently, but it also works. My way works as well as yours. So it was a little too straight-laced for an art studio, I thought. It was like too much like, you know, proper way of doing it is this, and you should be manly. It was kind of difficult to be a little small town boy in this like larger city, and all the fancy students were like much more eloquent and more like experienced socially and in general. That's the thing, like you have to kind of, sometimes you are behind the curve and it's very difficult to kind of catch up. You don't have enough resources or people that could help you with stuff like that. And then when I was in my second year, I selected some courses, some freehand drawing and conceptual class. I took conceptual sculpture and conceptual drawing. And there were of course some other courses like art history and psychophysiology of perception, all the really weird fancy fields. And but then my colleague asked me what classes I selected, and then I told him, and he said that why are you doing it to yourself? Like you took all the courses that are kind of optional. Like the minimum is like take two courses, sculpture and drawing, not counting the theoretical subjects, and then you can do your best within this very limited amount of classes you take. And then I thought, yeah, here's a point. So I dropped all these like extra classes that kind of seemed like a good idea at the time, and it was good that I did because there was still enough work to do even with these small amount of classes that I selected. So like, yeah, good point. Ambition sometimes leads to overwhelm. They take on too much and then you end up burning out. That's a problem with education, that we put kids through too much material There's just too many different topics, too many different classes, requirements, and there's no focus. And I think at some point, even when you're young, you should start focusing, narrowing your focus a little bit more, because I believe that if you focus on one thing at the time, other areas of interest will kind of fan out naturally. Like I explained it earlier, that if you learn one thing, let's say you want to focus just on pencil drawing, then you figure out other things, like where is graphite coming from, where is it mined, why do we need to add carbon to it to change hardness. Oh, that's interesting. What about paper, where that comes from? And then you learn other things. Just kind of the launching pad was that one topic that you selected that you were interested in, but from there you can branch out and learn kind of organically about more stuff. And that's how I feel the best education experience I had was after I was out of school, because I felt like the direction that I was taken towards in school was kind of random. It was like, oh, here you have to learn about Renaissance painting in Italy. And then you go to the next class and you're learning about, I don't know, the epic tale of Gilgamesh, and then you go to the next class and you learn about perception of colors and psychology of how colors affect you psychologically, and then you go to the next class and you learn chemistry. It's fine, but like it's so disconnected. It's not related. Like I can go to a freehand drawing class and then learn chemistry afterwards related to that, like graphite, carbon, like how is it, the molecular structure of carbon. Very interesting. What else is graphite used for? When you learn physics, electronics, and just you don't even know which direction it's going to take you, because it's like a rabbit hole. Start with one thing and then you end up kind of like with spending your night on YouTube and clicking through things. One thing leads to another. Yeah, it was, I think, kind of like a long distance running. I feel like I felt best somewhere in this area, kind of like marathon run, where at the mile 8 is when I feel freshest. And now I'm kind of dredging through the mile 20 here. And I know that I have still 6.2 miles to go. And I know that I should be able to make it, but it's not going to be easy. And it starts to feel clunkier, and my elbow hurts, and my lower back hurts, and my brain is becoming more foggy, and my words are more slurred. And there's always this urgency to finish. Somehow I feel like I'm not supposed to record a video that's too long because of the the storage memory issue, and I've been having trouble uploading the videos from the phone to the computer in order to edit them on iMovie. I use iMovie to edit. It's okay. It's free app that comes with Macs. It's a little challenging, a little clunky, and there are some missing features that other programs have. Like you can do cool effects. You can like draw on top of your footage, make an arrow. I just kind of recently figured out some options like nested images, pretty useful especially for this. And sound effects. I want to play with some sound effects there. You can distort your voice. I can distort my voice in any way I want.
I mean, not anyway, just whatever selection provides. But it will be kind of fun to experiment with it.
But yeah, I feel like I'm kind of relaxing now. I feel like the analogy to marathon race is quite on the money. I've run 3 of those things, and the first one was in Chicago, and it was difficult because it was my first marathon, and it was also warm. It was 78 degrees in October. A lot of people got dehydrated and collapsed. There was one death too. That was kind of scary. There was one man just didn't make it, and it was I didn't really feel the heat as much, and by the time I arrived I had really sore legs, of course, and they were handing out beers in plastic cups at the finish line. So like, oh, beer, great. And I took one sip and I thought I was going to throw up. So I left the beer on a ledge somewhere and just walked home. I still had to walk quite a lot. It kind of helped to actually walk, to cool down, so that the muscles don't go into the sudden shock of not moving. But it was really sore. And the second one, I wanted to sign up for an easy marathon, kind of flat, in Lower Massachusetts. It was called Bay State Marathon. And I ran this one twice because I tried to qualify for Boston Marathon. And at the time when I ran there first, my age group qualification was quite generous. I think it was like 3 hours and 12 minutes or something. So of course I ran marathon in it was 3 hours and 15 maybe, and I of course ran the marathon in 3 hours and like 17 or 16. So of course I didn't qualify, but then I trained for the next year. I knew what it would take to actually get better at it. And I did improve my time, but unfortunately they changed the qualifying time to 3 hours and 10 minutes. So great, I thought, okay, maybe I can make it, because I kind of felt like I could. So of course, then it was very cold. It was drizzly, kind of like frozen rain. It was really nasty weather. And of course, because my body didn't lose all the water, I had to go to the bathroom, and that lost me precious minute. So I kind of arrived at like 3 hours and 11 minutes. It's like so ironic. And since then I just never tried again. I nearly made it. But I think that's the key, like to qualify for something like that, you need to practice harder and just create a padding. You can't make it, just so. You can't have the time of like 3 hours and 10 minutes on the dot to qualify. You have to kind of aim for 3 hours and 5 minutes. That way you have a little bit of a padding. So like, yeah, but I feel now that running this distance is not healthy for me, at least. It's just 20 miles is still fine. I can still manage, but like beyond that, it's your body kicks into that rough survival mode, and it becomes stressful, and it's actually not very good for your heart. Some studies were released lately that the long distance runners actually struggle with some arteries artery plaque. I think that's what it's called. So like, yeah, all this dedication to training to be healthy might end up with a visit in ER, and the person died. The first marathon I ran, there was actually an ambulance that crossed our path that also caused the delay, and that was the ambulance that was going to retrieve that person. And there was this book everybody was reading at the time called Born to Run by Christopher McDougall, and there was a lot of this like the popularity of this book. I can sort of I can tell that the popularity of this book is owed to the tendency of the author to tell the kind of tall tales. He liked to like exaggerate the stories about these athletes, and like, was a super athlete, and they can run, the Tarahumara can run insane distances on nothing but chia seeds, and they're barefoot. And that's kind of a little bit of a exaggeration, and a lot of people kind of bought into it, and they were starting to like run on empty and barefoot, and they got hurt. There's a lot of people kind of disillusioned with it. And also this whole debate about running shoes turned out to be bogus, because like you can run with any sort of shoe or no shoe. It all depends on how you adapt to it. And if you adapt to this kind of shoe, that's great. If you adapt to barefoot, provided you practice it, you'll be fine. The key is not to jump into something out of the sudden. You have to adapt, acclimate to it. So yeah, I was into kind of barefoot running for a while. It did help, but also whether it's related or not, I got an injury which is kind of almost permanent, which is calcification of a Achilles tendon at insertion. And it's better now. I've been doing a lot of PT and lifting and stretching, and stretching is good at later stages, like where I am right now, but it takes months to recover. Once you actually apply the proper physical therapy, it takes maybe even over a year sometimes to recover from a tendon injury. Whereas if you don't apply the right physical therapy, you can suffer for years. I think I've had it for up to 7 years, on and off. It was kind of mild, but it kept affecting me, and it made me quit my coaching job, and it just kind of changed everything. Now it's a little better. I will try to exercise it more. So yeah, I feel like this is the finish line, and it reminds me of the third marathon I ran. No way, the second marathon. It was in 2012, I think. where I sprinted to the finish line. It felt really nice to be fresh enough to be able to sprint to the finish line. And I heard a woman saying like, "Oh my goodness," in the sidelines. It's like, so, oh my goodness, here we are. This is it. A savanna. So that was the experience. The final result is what it is. I'm going to turn it off now.